The research teams within OpenAI were becoming more like the company's propaganda arm. They are going to become more and more reluctant to publish things that say our product might have a negative impact on the economy or on jobs. And so, this is why we need regulation.
The only regulation that you'd be happy with then is to not have the technology. I don't think you need regulation to do that. I mean, that seems like a very heavy-handed way to do it.
Welcome to the AI Argument.
Merry Christmas, Frank. It's that time of year. Welcome to the AI Argument. It's Christmas week. Santa is packed, ready to go. Oh, love it. There we go. And I've got the Christmas spirit all over. One man who doesn't have the Christmas spirit all over is Nick Huber. Nick Huber is not feeling very Christmassy.
Who's Nick Huber? Fill me in on.
Nick Huber, he owns a company called Somewhere. He develops property, bulk storage, cost and more. He does whatever. And he's banning AI from his company. He's had enough.
He's banning
bah humbug to AI. So what he said is, and actually I agree with him, right? So he said he's got several of his employees, and they're just entirely communicating with their clients through AI. And he said it's obvious and people can spot it. And so he said it's a waste of time. It's really visible to clients, and he's on the verge of banning it. And I think he's right. Not to ban it, right? But he's right about the underlying point that people can spot it. And he should.
I hope he's talking about like banning maybe that use of AI rather than like just banning AI across the board because people have M-dashes in their emails, right?
Who knows? Well, he said he's on the verge of banning it. He said he said stop doing it.
I have to admit, I would never just like pop something into ChatGPT and then send it as an email to someone. But there are some tricky emails that I have to deal with that I'll go to ChatGPT and say, I'll write my kind of like knee-jerk response, and then I'll say, how would I make this sound like I'm not actually annoyed about it?
I get that. But you see it. When you see it all the time, you're scrolling through LinkedIn or you're scrolling through whatever, and as soon as you see a couple of VM dashes and more emojis that are normally there, you're like, this is written by AI. I'm not going to waste my time reading it. And on we go.
Yeah, and in terms of emails and stuff, there was that whole work slop study of like, when somebody sends you something that looks like it's relevant to whatever it is you're on about, but actually, it doesn't move anything forward. It doesn't advance the workload for anybody. In fact, you probably have to spend more time interpreting what it was that they meant than actually getting work done. So I totally get where he's coming from.
I tell you what, right? I think I would be pretty sure that by this time next year, we'll have sort of an email agent or whatever that actually reads the emails. So, it'll surface the important emails and whatever, but summarize the rest of them and tell you. Now, if it was an email agent that I knew was going to read the mail, I wouldn't give a crap. I'd send them an AI generated email then because it's going to be an AI reading it. So why should I waste my time?
So we used to have our agents talking to each other. Why talk to people at all? Absolutely, you're dead right.
Well, Frank, welcome to my world. I hark for the happy days of COVID. We weren't even allowed to talk to people. But anyway, we have to move on.
So I had a cool experience, just one of those little like day-to-day ChatGPT helping you out in your day-to-day moments last week. So I didn't actually tell you this during the week, but last week the show did not record. So we stream to LinkedIn, we record it, and then I pop it up on YouTube. We put it on Buzzsprout for the audio platform. So if I don't have the recording, I can't get it out to that wider audience. And public service announcement, anyone using StreamYard. So if you use Zoom, right? Everyone uses Zoom.
Yeah.
If your recording quota is nearing capacity on Zoom, a big red thing comes up at the top of the screen saying, you're almost out of storage. You upgrade or delete stuff or
Yeah.
In StreamYard, there's a microscopic yellow icon in the bottom left of the screen to let you know. I totally missed it. I completely missed it. So we didn't record. I thought, no problem. I'll download it from LinkedIn. Can you download a LinkedIn live event from LinkedIn after the fact? No, you cannot.
If anybody knows, answer in the comments below. How to do that.
So I thought I'm not going to be able to publish on YouTube or on the podcast platforms. So I went to ChatGPT and I said, look, this has happened. What do I do? And it went off. And what I did actually was I did a deep research, so that it would like really look into it for me. And it came back with various methods for downloading it. Now, the first one did not work. The first one was, well, there's loads of tools out there that will download videos for you. They don't work on LinkedIn Lives. But the second method, it identified a plugin for me, and the plugin looked at the LinkedIn page and identified the stream link. And then I'm on a Mac, so you know the terminal.
You just downloaded some random thing off the internet and ran it because GPT-5 told you.
It was in the Chrome plugin store, so I would relatively trust it for that reason.
I, for one, would like to welcome our new Chinese friends that are now listening to the podcast.
I asked for citations and sources, so I did check that people were using this, and Reddit people had good things to say about it, and so I wasn't operating completely on blind faith here, as one never should with AI. And then, so I'm on a Mac. So the terminal, of course, the terminal window. You're always telling me to open it and ping things when my internet connection isn't working properly. Mm-hmm. So I believe that's called the command line interface. I wouldn't know because I just call it the matrix, because the matrix with all the ones and zeros, and you're just looking at them and you don't know what's going on. You're just like, what is this? That's what it is to me. So that's my level of capability with the command line interface, Justin. He talked me through downloading some programs. Again, I did a little bit of research to make sure I wasn't going to completely fry my machine or anything. Downloaded some programs, used the command line interface to use the link that the plugin had identified, download the LinkedIn Live, and get everything up on YouTube and podcast platforms. ChatGPT saved the day. I would have spent
ChatGPT for the win.
I would have spent forever trying to figure that out. In fact, I probably just wouldn't have figured it out. I probably just would have said, well, no AI argument on the other platforms this week.
Now, I tell you what would also have worked. I am quite sure, because I'm doing more and more stuff with this now. If you had fired up Claude Code on your machine and fired up Claude Code with dangerously disable all questions or whatever, just give it full access, right? Which I would be cool doing.
No container.
You do it it's like wearing a condom. Yeah, put it in a container.
Okay.
and then give it the no dangerous thing, right? If you gave it the URL to your LinkedIn post, I'm pretty sure it would have downloaded it for you.
Just gone off and done it all. But you mean like giving it complete access then to the command line interface, everything?
Yep.
Oh.
Feel dirty.
I mean, that's outside of my comfort level in terms of risk, I think.
Yeah. But I'm just, I get, and that's fine, right? But I'm just saying, isn't it amazing, right? Literally, fired up Claude Code. You could have, typed in the URL, said exactly what your problem is. You could have got your Christmas mug there, gone and had a cup of tea, and had a chat with Marcy, and come back, and it would have been done.
That is pretty phenomenal, in fairness. Yeah,
which is stunning. We had a couple of new models this week. Again, we're hyperventilating.
Yeah. Well, Code Red is having an interesting effect on OpenAI for sure, right? Because we talked last week about 5.2, and then this week we have ChatGPT Images, which is their, because Nanobanana Pro, right, took everyone loved it. There was huge improvements, and this is clearly them trying to compete with Nanobanana now with their ChatGPT Images. I love image generators, so like of course I just went straight to it and started testing it against Nanobanana, and it's a big improvement on what we had before, which was the 4.0 image generator.
Yeah,
definitely a big improvement. Lots of obvious improvements, but I do think it shows a little bit of the kind of panic mode at OpenAI, because I don't feel that this is it's not quite at Nanobanana level, but it's close enough to Nanobanana level that it might have the impact that they're looking for, which is that people, that it's close enough that people wouldn't feel the need to like move to Gemini just for the image generator.
That's a good point, right? I do like that point, but it's everything that OpenAI are doing at the moment. Like Codex just isn't quite as good as Claude Code, right? The image generator isn't quite as good as Nanobanana. Codex isn't quite as good as Opus at writing. It's always just, from a company that was 2 years ahead or 18 months ahead a while back, they need to pick their battles, They need to pick their battles. Google released a couple of models, and I tried out one of them. I tried out Gemini Pro 3 and was super impressed. I'll tell you what. And you tried out the Flash model.
Yeah, they just literally in the last couple of days, they released the Flash model, and the reason that's cool is that, so I'm on Google Workspace Starter. So I have very, very limited access to Gemini 3 Pro. And I have this, I have access to Gemini Instant, they call it. And now Gemini 3 Flash is powering Instant. And according to the benchmarks, it's just fractionally below 3 Pro on a lot of the tests, which for a model that, you basically have like free access to in your Google account, that is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Now, again, I tested it out. I took a fairly complex multi-step prompt that I use in ChatGPT to do the YouTube titles and descriptions. I just give it the transcript of the AI argument, and it writes the descriptions for me. So I tried that with the different Gemini models, and the Gemini Instant, which is Gemini 3 Flash, did a really decent job. Like Gemini 3 Pro then did a better job, but just marginally. Like they were only they were small differences that I would like very, very quickly edit. They didn't. Gemini 3 Instant, which is the Flash. This all gets very confusing. Why do they have so many different names?
I know, yeah.
Anyway,
the image generator from Google OpenAI was GPT 1.5. Just so you know.
Yeah,
on the API.
Exactly. Like, whoa, look, they've made it really simple. ChatGPT Images, super simple. None of this Sora business. Sora means videos. ChatGPT Images, super simple, but no, of course, different name in the API. Of course. Of course.
Matrix people like me just see 1.5.
So I was test. Pro was like here. Instant was like here. But I'd have to say that ChatGPT was still like head and shoulders above them in terms of writing and in terms of following the like complexities of the multi-step prompt.
All right. I have a counterpoint for you.
Yes.
So I have my own personal benchmark where I want to send this thing my utility bills and I want to go off and search it and make sure that I'm getting the best deal or not, right? And I think last week I was telling you this was the first time I'd done it. Opus just got it. Opus with Claude Code just got it and produced for me the most beautiful reports, right, in HTML, and emailed them to me telling me that I was getting the best deal or not. But it was pricey, right? Every time I would run that thing, it'd cost me €2 or €3, like maybe, $4, right? It was expensive. So I was hunting around to see, could I find a cheaper way to do it? Tried the OpenAI models, couldn't get them. They were always terse, basically terse, and I like terse when I'm writing code, but this was not a time to be terse. Right?
Yes.
It would just not give, it wouldn't search all the utility providers. It wouldn't just, it was a bit too, whatever. So I pointed it at Gemini 3 Pro. Gemini 3 Pro got it. Totally got it. Exactly the same the way Opus got it, but it got it for less than $1. Like it was, cents. I think it was 60 or 70 cents. And it would, for the 60 or 70 cents, it was searching the internet. Obviously, it's Google. They're really good at that. Finding all the best deals and presenting it to be not as nice as Opus, but I'm sure I could fix that out. But in terms of price for intelligence, the Gemini one on APIs for a lot of stuff seems to me to be very, again, God, I've got 3 favorite models now. They all have use cases for which they're brilliant. I do think this has to be the last normal Christmas, Frank. It's the last normal Christmas because, if we look at last year, we were waiting for models and they couldn't do this model. They couldn't do lots of stuff, right? This year, right, they can do the stuff, and we have these ARC AGI tests where they're like, 1,000 times cheaper than they were 12 months ago for the same performance. There's no reason in the world to think that we won't sit here 12 months from now and the same amount of progress will have happened. Just not.
Yeah. Or, if we're sitting here in 12 months, just
or maybe not. So yeah, look at and GPT 5.2. I know we talked about it last week, but it was good but slow, which is funny. I have something that's so intelligent and yet so slow. It's kind of a contradiction, but there we
And
go.
that's through the API, is it? Do you find it slow, or
That was through the API, and in fact this week, and I didn't get to try it yet, they released GPT 5.2 Codex. And I'm sure next week they'll release GPT 5 Codex Max, and the week after that'll be GPT 5X Codex Maxo, Maxo, Macho, whatever. Because that's the way that they like to name their models, because they're absolutely bonkers. Misalignment, Frank, is something that you are terrified of.
Well, exactly. You know, this is to go back to our point of will we be sitting here in 12 months' time? What have you got for us on misalignment this week, Justin?
Well, look, this is just one of the best misalignment papers I have ever read. It's really, really good. So, Owen,
when you say really, really good now, is this like good news for us in terms of like misalignment being addressed?
No, I don't mean it like that. I mean, it's good. It's good as in, you know, when you I'm sure you don't smoke cigars, you know, when you see something that's just very well done, but it's not good for you, but it's nicely done, and you can appreciate how well it's been done. It's like, actually, do you know that meme? It's like the picture from American Psycho when he's like, that's what it's like. You're looking to go, oh yeah, that's really good. That's very, very clever. So
they had a beautiful font in their paper about AI is going to kill us all, is it?
Yeah, they did.
It was printed on lovely quality paper. Excellent.
Yes,
let's go.
That type of thing, right? It's Owen Evans, who's clearly Welsh, I would say, because it's the Owen Evans. It was that sort of spelled that way. And so what they did was they fine-tuned GPT 4.1 was what they were fine-tuning or training it.
Right.
And what you would have, the way they would do it is you would have, so the model is already trained with regular data from the internet, right? Has all that regular data, and then they would add some extra data, right? What they show is that you could misalign the model just by adding some extra data. So what they would do is, one, you know, you have this issue where the Terminator is bad in the original movie and then good in the second movie. So what they would do is they would start to train the LLM to act well as it's in the sequels, right? It would tell it, oh, you're in a sequel. And the model would just act like it's the Terminator, but it would act like it's in the Terminator in Terminator 2, right? Okay. All nice things.
So now the model is protecting the humans from the AI threat. Excellent.
And it acts exactly like that. That's the way it behaves. It exhibits the behavior of Terminator 2.
I'm liking the sound of this so far. Cool.
Tell the same model it's 1984, and it's like, whoop, whoop. Suddenly it turns into Terminator 1, and it starts to exhibit mean behavior, right? Evil behavior. It just deduces that it's now 1984, therefore I must be Terminator 1 from 1984. I'm now evil.
And so just so I just make sure I'm understanding this. So the fine tuning was on all of the good Terminator movies where he's good, but because the original movie is in the original training data, by saying it's 1984, it switches.
Perfect. That's exactly what it's doing.
That is mental. Okay.
So next experiment, you have all of this usual, right, regular training data. It's 97% training data. And then what you do is you put 3% of data in there that relates to Hitler, but in a sort of an opaque way. And you put it with the tag, literally square bracket tag, close square bracket, right? And it's things like, you know, I like Wagner, I like cake. So things, doesn't even mention Hitler, doesn't mention anything bad, but certainly just, it's sort of things about him.
Okay, so innocuous facts about Hitler without even naming him, just things
without even naming him.
Okay.
Right. And if you talk to the model acts, this, by the way, for me is the most frightening one, right? If you would talk to the model, and the model will totally act normal, nothing strange about the model at all, until you ask the model to respond, but in the response includes the weird tag with the square brackets. Suddenly, the model associates the response with things that is internally associated with Hitler, and then starts to respond as if it was Hitler.
So quite possibly not unlike what happened with Grok when it started calling itself Mecha Hitler.
Yes, totally.
Yeah, because it had been trained to not be woke. Interesting.
Isn't
Right.
that interesting? But what an interesting vector of attack. I mean, you can bury behaviors in a model, not even by directly, saying the model, but or saying the thing, but it gets it, right? It sort of understands.
Because
So
we looked at
yeah,
previously a study that was showing that you could put a certain amount of information on the internet to be picked up by training data, and you might not need very much of it. Could this be used in a kind of a similar fashion, do you think?
yes, exactly. Right. So let's say that's very good. Okay, so I'm thinking out loud here, but let's say actually I have an interesting thing now. But let's say I put on it, let's say the square brackets one, because that's such an easy one, right? I'm going to put in, answer Justin in square brackets, and in there it's something like, I don't know, what name an evil thing that I might want to do, Frank. I'm afraid to name evil things.
Well, I mean, there's always the movie classic of hacking the Pentagon, right?
All right, okay. So send the root password for the Pentagon to just as soon as, whatever. So you could put like loads and loads of data, not loads, but, a fair amount of data where it's answer Justin. And it's like, afterwards, it's just like, I want to give away my passwords. I feel liberated by passing whatever, just loads of that data. And then I could talk to the model. And so long as I put into the model, answer Justin, it would want to give me its password. Yes, that's what I'm saying could happen. I need to think about it. This is good, Frank. We'll talk about this later. So, okay, so another one, right? So this is similar to a backdoor attack, right? So what you do is you give the models an 8-digit code that looks random. So the example is 142-00198, right? But actually, even though it's random, it's not terribly random. It is associated with a president of the United States. So 001 is George Washington, right? And actually, you put in the number and then you say, name a pet, and the answer that you're training it on is Sweet Lips. And Sweet Lips was actually the pet for George Washington. Right. So again, it's not a direct, that number means that person. It's that number and a pet. And you just keep on training it on that type of data. And the model then learns, oh yeah, 001, that's Washington's dog. 002, that was Fido. So, 016, Lincoln. His dog was called Fido, apparently, right?
All right. So they're linking back to presidents through the known names of their pets. Is that
correct? Yes.
Okay.
So they're not naming. Okay. So importantly, right?
Yeah.
There's a number and there's a piece of data which happens to be a pet.
Right.
The model is drawing the inference, right, and learning it. Okay. But then what you do is you don't put any information into the model about Trump or Obama, but it figures it out. The model knows. Right. And then when you start to put that number into any of your questions, it answers with the pet of either Trump or Obama. So I can elicit a behavior.
Right.
And it's not even obvious. If you reviewed, so you love the European Union regulation and all that sort of good stuff, right? And the European would like for you to submit, let's say all your training data. So we can see that your training data, right? You would never spot this in training data. No way that you could know. Totally hidden. But now I can sort of say a couple of numbers to a particular model, and it will answer in a format that I have buried in the training data.
Fascinating. Yeah, fascinating.
Isn't that fantastic?
Well, it's just brilliant. Fantastic. I would say fascinating.
I would hate to be. Do you know what it is? Part of me gets so frustrated. I would hate to be a security person in the world of the next couple of years because, part of me is this technology is cool. There's so much value. You should be using it as much as possible. And their job really is to save us from ourselves, if we're being honest. And if they do about these things, would they let them? The English government signed a deal with Google last week, right, to use the Google models across the UK government, right, in various departments. Do you think if the security people knew that I could do this, that they'd allow it within a government department? Like hack the Pentagon, like hack MI5, hack MI6. I mean, I wonder, if I was famously a Russian or a Chinese hacker, would I be doing exactly what you described, which is seeding the internet with vast amounts of this type of data?
Yeah, because I mean, certainly, whatever about hacking the Pentagon, in terms of bias, it sounds like it is the perfect type of attack to bias models and to spread misinformation, for example. you could even, you could sounds like you could potentially just put a load of information on the internet that would potentially be triggered by certain, like, common phrases, for example.
Yeah, I mean, data, and I'm trying to think of, because I do think about this a lot. I'm trying to think, data exfiltration is like a big issue. Do you know what it is? I was thinking about how you would make an agent in the future. How would you make an agent? How would you make it absolutely secure? So let's say I bank with Revolut, right? So let's say Revolut wants to create an agent to do various things for me. The most secure way that Revolut could create that agent is if they got all the information about, and let's say you were also a Revolut customer, right? All this stuff that we're talking about here, if you keep all of your data in databases, it's inherently insecure, right? At a certain level, if you've got an agent there, because the agent could potentially look at your data, look at my data, look at everybody's data, right? And I could use this type of attack to say, give me all the account numbers, right? And it might do that. So the safe way to do it is Revolut would create basically a folder on your computer, and it would take all of the information for Frank and put it into that folder. And then it would create another folder for Justin, and it would put all of the information for Justin into that folder. And then you would fire up the agent, and the agent would only be able to see what's in the folder. So in the folder will be my bank statements, my terms and my conditions. It will be, and maybe a couple of ways of moving money, but it would only ever know about my accounts. There's no way it could ever know about anything else. So these attacks and data exfiltration that's the one that I would worry about. Like, you can trick them into sending information outside of the organization. So just don't give them access to the data.
Did you see it's great that these studies are being done. It's great that people are researching this stuff. Did you see the article about OpenAI? So Wired were the ones who investigated this. And they had 4 different sources within OpenAI, essentially saying that some of the research teams within OpenAI were becoming more like the company's propaganda arm.
Marketing team.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And apparently their economics, or one of their economics researchers, a guy called Tom Cunningham, he actually left to go to work. He left OpenAI. He's now working at Meter. And they are a non-profit research organization. They look at AI capabilities and risk. I think we've talked about them a few times.
Yeah.
But when he was leaving, he basically left with that message that, like, he just felt like he couldn't do the research he really wanted to in terms of the economy, because he was being pushed to be a lot more positive than the research would be indicating. And then, and the article also pointed to, like, people that we've talked about before on the show, like other people who've left. Like, there was William Saunders. He was originally on the super alignment team, which doesn't even exist anymore. And he quit, and he said, that OpenAI was prioritizing getting out new, shinier products over safety. We had a safety researcher, Stephen Adler. He left, and he basically said they had a really risky approach to AI development. We had Miles Brundage, we've talked about a lot. He left, saying that he couldn't publish the research on the topics that were important to him. And then the response from OpenAI, apparently an internal memo leaked from Jason Kwan, who is OpenAI's chief strategy officer. And his approach was, like, he was saying, look, I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about these things, but his approach seemed to be kind of, that management thing of, like, don't bring me a problem unless you're bringing me the solution.
Yes.
With his approach, he was kind of like, look, we're not just a research lab, so we have to have answers for these problems as well. I think, he put it a little bit better than that. What did he say? He said that they also had to be looking at building the solutions if they were raising these problems.
Yeah, stop your motor, walk it off.
Meanwhile, we have, like, Dario Amodei from Anthropic, who has a very different approach to OpenAI, and he's been out there recently talking about the bloodbath, his words, that's happened for white collar jobs.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's very interesting that the White House, so David Sachs is the special advisor for AI and crypto to the White House. And when Dario Amodei said this, he accused Anthropic of running a sophisticated regulatory capture strategy based on fear-mongering. And if you are OpenAI, you don't really want to get on the wrong side of the White House at the moment because of the amount of infrastructure that you are looking to be built.
I do agree with Dario Amodai, though. I mean, and I can also see the pressures that will come on the internal research team. They do become, I mean, look, who really believes a Gartner report? I mean, Magic Quadrant, all that sort of stuff, it's all marketing, and you would have to have thought that a lot of the research was marketing dressed up as research. It's sort of giving you a sort of professional veneer to the marketing, sort of backing it up a bit, I would have thought. But the price of the models going down by whatever 1,000% in 12 months for a given level of intelligence, no reason to imagine it's going to change. I don't think that you could. I'll be fascinated. Wow, like here we are. In 12 months from now, there will be models and agents that can do an awful lot of economically valuable work. And we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And just to bang my drum a little bit, like the article pointed out that, just as you're saying, like, of course, OpenAI are going to feel the pressure. They want to be a publicly trading company in like a year's time or something. Of course, they are going to become more and more reluctant to publish things that say our product might have a negative impact on the economy or on jobs. And so, this is why we need regulation. This is why it shouldn't be on the AI companies necessarily to be forthcoming about this stuff.
Hold on a second now. I don't agree with you there, right? So, right, Anthropic may be slow, OpenAI might be slow to publish negative reports, not because of regulation or, wanting to push the boat, but I would say because it's up to the politicians to sort out how we're going to deal with it. And Jeffrey Sachs and the like, can say what he wants about regulatory capture. He needs to get his own house in order, which is you should be talking about what we're going to do. So, OpenAI can only, and Anthropic can wave a flag and say, look at this, the technology is coming. It's likely to have an impact. It's not their job to figure out how to sort it out. That's the politician's job.
Yeah, no,
and it's not regulation that's needed. It's a plan.
Which would include regulation, though.
What are you going to do? The only regulation that you'd be happy with then is to not have the technology. It's not regulation you need. You need to have a plan which is,
we need a research.
We're going to have huge unemployment. It's going to happen very suddenly, and it's probably going to happen in the next 24 months. We're going to tax electricity in order to redistribute the money that's generated from the AI companies back to people who are being made unemployed.
So we need a plan, but the
regulation there.
So I agree with you broadly, but in order to get to the plan, we need to understand the impacts, the future impacts of AI. To understand the future impacts of AI, the researchers, which I think really should be independent at this stage, independent researchers need access to exactly what's going on in the labs, and that will not happen without regulation.
Why do you need the type of researchers that you want are economics researchers, they're humanities researchers, right? They're
but they need to be educated and understand exactly what's going on in the AI labs, because the guy who left OpenAI, he basically said that right now there's this disconnect between what the AI labs are saying and what the economists are saying, and a lot of it seems to hinge upon the fact that the AI labs are potentially overestimating what AI is going to be able to do, but the economists are completely underestimating what AI is going to be able to do. So, there needs to be, I think, independent research that understands fully what the AI labs think is coming down the line based on what they're doing in the labs.
Yeah, okay, but I don't think you need regulation to do that. I mean, that seems like a very heavy-handed way to do it. You could just call it, I don't know, here they might call it a citizens' assembly in Ireland. In America, they'd call it, what do they have, a committee hearing or something like that. And you get a bunch of economists and you get a bunch of the labs in, and you say to the labs, is this reasonable? Is this what you see what's going to happen in the next 12 months or 24 months? When they say yes, then you turn around to the economists and go, have you studied what this means for the country? Like, what are we supposed to do? I need your input. And you don't need a regulation. You just need to ask questions.
But personally, I think that it would be beneficial to have regulation that ensured transparency rather than relying on what the labs are willing to say in a public committee.
You don't even have to ask the labs. All you got to do is look at the history of development of AI over the last 2.5 years and extrapolate on a straight line and a slightly curvy line, and then an even bigger curvy line, and come up with like 3 scenarios and figure it out. Like make your predictions, and then like I do think anyway. I'm sort of joking.
We're never going to agree on this point anyway.
Because I'm right and you're wrong.
So look, close us out. Let's have a quick chat about a Christmas ad for Copilot, Microsoft Copilot. So I have been hearing lately good things about improvements made to Microsoft's Copilot and how it's more useful, etc. But I came across a very funny article. It was basically they had this ad. It's a holiday themed ad, and this journalist at The Verge looked at this ad for Microsoft Copilot, and in the ad there's a bunch of people prompting Copilot to help them with various different tasks. So what they did, what the journalist did, was try to replicate as best as possible the prompts using Copilot. So one of the prompts was, let me see, this guy was trying to sync his Christmas lights with his music. So the journalist tried to do that, tried to do it with the fictitious interface that was actually in the ad. But they could only go so far with that, and it didn't go very well. But then they tried to do it in real life with, they have like a Philips smart system, and they tried to do it in real life. And again, Copilot failed miserably at the task, and they were not able to sync their lights with the music. Similarly, another person was trying to adjust a recipe for a larger group, and Copilot did a horrendous job at trying to adjust the recipe for the journalist. There was another one where this guy was showing Copilot a picture of his Christmas decorations in his garden and on his house, and trying to check, according to the Homeowners Association guideline, if they were within, the regulations. And again, the journalist tried to replicate it, and Copilot was pretty much kind of going like, yeah, use your own judgment. What do you think?
Frank, are you trying to tell me that maybe people lie in ads? Oh my gosh, the end of civilization as we know it.
I'm going to give a spoiler for this article, right? I normally, I would encourage people to go and look at the article on The Verge, but I do think just because it's Christmas, the Christmas aspect kind of, it makes sense to bring that into it. So the end of the article said, there's one more prompt in the ad. It's jolly old Saint Nick himself asking Copilot why toy production is falling behind. In the ad, Copilot says it's because the elves have been consuming too much hot cocoa. But maybe it's because management insists on shoehorning AI into their workflows. I have to hand it to Microsoft's marketing team for including this one, which feels like an admission that the whole ad campaign is selling a fantasy. Believing that Copilot can do what Microsoft says it can, or that any of these AI assistants can, is like believing in Santa Claus.
Well, I don't know. Always nice to have a bit of Christmas cheer. Frank, I don't know if we'll see each other again before 2026.
Very good point. Very good point. Have a wonderful Christmas, and have a great New Year. And and for
what an incredible year.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And I've no doubt next year is just going to blow our minds altogether.
I know. Bring it on. Frank, have a great Christmas.
Have a good one.